Hey, Ting. I think we're live.
Hi.
Hey, everybody.
So welcome to This Is Not Just a Thing, brought to you by Ting and Nikki. I'm Ting from Duke University Center for Advanced Hindsight.
And I'm Mickey. And I'm a product designer and interested in how our things are not just things.
Mickey, I want to invite everyone to make a guess. How many Americans between 18 and 25 years old seriously considered suicide in the past 30 days, surveyed in June by CDC? Does anybody have a guess? Put in
Anyone out
comments.
there in the audience who's watching? Yeah, you can put it in the comments. Ting, did you ask me this
It's 1 in
week?
4. Yes, it's 1 in 4. And we talked about how this is a shocking stat and whether we are ourselves to be blamed for having this outcome. Is it because we don't take enough care of ourselves? Is it something that the society is responsible of for this outcome? I mean, of course, we can blame the pandemic, the COVID, for a part of it. But what do you think should have happened that would have prevented this, Mickey?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, if we don't blame ourselves, who do we blame? And I feel like we could certainly blame society. But I also feel like probably a part of this is that we're all trying to put on such a good face, and I am not okay right now. I think I've been running a sprint thinking it was going to be over soon, and it's not going to be over soon. And we're running a marathon, and I don't know if we should feel as bad as we feel about what we're feeling at this time.
Yeah, it turns out that science says that we are basically overloaded by information and choices, and we have limited cognition for dealing with them. So our not exercising enough, not eating the right diet or eating too much, not sleeping, enough hours, going to bed too late, not having enough quality connections. It turns out that we have these two systems. There's the autopilot, and then there's the deliberative system. And in the past, we, before we got so overwhelmed, we take care of some habits using the auto system, and we have enough cognition left to deal with important decisions. But now there's so much decisions made that we slip into this autopiloting and misfire, So when we are tired, we don't find enough self-control to kind of go out and run. And these system 1 errors were actually contributing to a lot of our predictably irrational decisions, but they are actually very understandable. It was actually not our fault. Our environment, our society is currently set up in a very challenging way for our cognition and for our well-being. So first of all, we shouldn't feel guilty about this at all.
Isn't it also the case? Yeah, I mean, but isn't it also the case that sort of everyone else, feeling like they have to say, it's almost like there's this norm that you have to say you're okay, even if you're not okay, and so there feels like there's a normative pressure as well. And so then when we do it, we're okay, it's almost like we have cognitive dissonance. We're like, I want to tell you how badly I'm feeling right now, but I probably shouldn't. And I wonder, this show is about This Is Not Just a Thing. I wonder if our things could be our allies. I wonder if we could enlist our things to help us kind of do things a little differently, maybe have new norms, and find that joy or find that happiness.
Absolutely. So this is not
Ting,
just
what's a thing that you have that is not just a thing?
I have a smiley here that we use in this household as sweet coin to reward each other, me and my husband, when we do something very valuable, emotion-based, but intangible. So when we give each other a long hug, we say, not all the time, I would say, here's a sweet coin, and there's a currency conversion. It's 1 sweet coin, 5 minutes of massage. And we give it out randomly. We don't, always do that. But when we want to kind of show that appreciation, we do that because a lot of the times we were so busy just doing things instead of truly giving attention to those things that make us feel good about our lives. And partly because we're running out of the cognition, we fail even so to pay attention to them. So I think the things around us, if they can actually make more salient the healthy habits, the important values, instead of tempting us to do our unhealthy habits, potentially that's a new normal that we could try to create. Mickey, what is the thing that you have that's not just a thing?
I'm a little worried my internet is being flaky today. It's part of the joys of having a pandemic internet. Can you hear me okay, Ting?
Absolutely.
So my thing is actually, I'm going to see if I can just show it up by tilting. It's a weird thing. Ting, can you tell what this thing is?
Oh, it's a printing machine?
Yeah, so this is a 3D printer from Poland, actually. Oddly enough, it actually lets you like remove the print head and put in a drill so that you can do what's called CNC and cut wood. And you can also put a print head in and be able to print with chocolate, which is pretty awesome. And so this is not just a thing. Actually, what I've found is there's something when you create that's sort of, it's called autotelic feedback. You get joy from creating. And so during COVID, I created this, which I printed on this machine right behind me. And so I kind of made a thing to get over the thing that was COVID. This is the COVID virus, and this is the Earth. And when you tilt it over, it's kind of a snow globe that sadly rains death on the Earth or rains death on the virus. And I made it to sort of try to cope with my feelings about this. It's like an alien threat that's taken over the whole world, and we can't even see it. And it's raining down death on us and our families. And so the act of making this silly thing, I mean, it's just a snow globe, gave me great joy in a weird way, just even in the moment of it, just doing it, even figuring out all the ways to keep water in it where it kept leaking. Was like getting my mind off of all these things that were like bearing on my soul. And so I think sometimes things that help you make are not just things. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, we are very honored to have a few guests with us today. So let me bring them up. We have Marco from Switzerland, and we have Spencer, based in New York City. So
hey Marco, hey Spencer,
is in one phase the kindest genius I've ever met in my life. That's a weird combination. Rare combination, and it's our honor to have you here, Spencer.
Thanks so much.
Wonderful.
Marco is the most empowering coach that I have experienced myself. So it's just amazing to have you here.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone.
Thank you for joining, Marco. Hey, I have a question for both of you. Could you tell us a habit that you're really proud of? But I have one condition. Actually, I want you to tell us 2 habits, but one of them is going to be a lie. So think of 2 habits you're really proud of, but one of them is real and one of them is a lie, but don't tell us which one. Who's ready to go?
I can do it. Okay, so
give us 2 habits that you're proud of, and we have to try to figure out which one is a lie.
So my first habit is that every morning when I wake up, before I get out of bed, I do 20 sit-ups. And my second habit is that every morning when I wake up, before I get out of bed, I try to come up with one new idea.
Oh man, I like both of those. All right, audience, who's out there? Which one is the lie? Go ahead and type it in comments if you're streaming this right now. which one is he really doing? Is he actually doing how many sit-ups?
20.
20 sit-ups every morning? Yeah, I mean, he looks pretty healthy. I can't really see down past the screen, but he looks pretty healthy. Or is he coming up with one new idea every morning, which I like as well. I think that those are both good habits. Aaron in the audience says number 2 is a lie. Number 2 is a lie, coming up with an idea every morning. Which one is it? Which one is the lie?
The lie is the sit-ups. I do try to come up with an idea every morning. I don't always succeed, but I do try, and I think I really enjoy it as a kind of habit that pushes my mind in new places.
Wow, amazing.
I like that. Just giving yourself a chance to daydream. Marco, how about you? 2 habits that you're proud of. One of them is going to be a lie.
Okay. Allora, the habit that I do also every morning is wake up, drink a glass of water, and start reading. The other habit that I do before breakfast, every day, I do calisthenics exercise. So gymnastic exercise, handstand, and all that.
So which one is the lie? Audience, let's hear. What say you? Ting, do you have a feeling for which one you think is the lie? Oh, you know him. Maybe you know. Maybe
yeah,
secretly.
I really should have guessed. So I'm seeing like number 2 was being suggested.
Corey thinks it's number 1. Interesting.
1. Yeah.
Aaron. Oh, Aaron thinks it's number 1. Which one is the lie?
The lie is number 1 because it's not every day.
They got it right. That's awesome.
Nice. They got it right.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you and welcome. So now we're gonna go into playing our game, and I'm sharing screen here. It's a special slot machine that we're going to pull. And before we go into today's game, we're gonna announce the winner from last time. So we had a slot machine that give us the, can you see? Well, this challenge, lack of exercise, and there are 2 things that they have to redesign. And it's in the future.
And this is from last week.
Can you explain? Yes, This is from last week. Everything, all IoT connected.
Well, they had to redesign a book and a pen, and it was totally IoT, like the pen could talk and take action and all that, so could the book. And we were quarried with children. In other words, we were married in a 4-way marriage. There were 4 partners. It was a quarriage instead of a marriage. And this is a future where we all have lots of kids. So that was the challenge. And then a lot of people suggested ideas. Here's the winner. It's actually, is this Eunice's? Yeah, I think so. And Eunice is in the audience today too, it looks like. She basically came up with the idea of putting a book glued to the ceiling with a pen. And then, Ting has tons of ideas, but she has to jump on the trampoline to actually kind of have fun, to reach the book, to write the ideas as fast as she can up there. So it's sort of, and of course, all the other kids are going to get on the trampoline and stop her or try to bounce the trampoline in weird ways. So it's sort of the thing suddenly becomes a fitness thing, maybe it's a break or the light goes on over by the trampoline every time she's in between meetings. So she actually gets up off of her butt and does something. Nicely done.
Yeah. And she actually asked a question. So Eunice is in the show today as well. So congratulations. And her question is, she found this is based on intuitions. And she wanted to be more scientific. So she asked, how can we be more scientific with this idea? Obviously, it's a very creative idea. So we talked about habit piggybacking last time. And one suggestion I have would be to piggyback jumping on the trampoline to the toilet visiting habit. So you visit you have to go for a biological break, every 1 hour or so. And if you could do some exercise after visiting the toilet and even get the kids, to cultivate a habit of after they loo, drink some water, and maybe jump on this trampoline because they might over jump, etc. So that's just one way to apply the principle of habit change in piggybacking and new habit to an existing old habit, so that it's easy to remember, so that it's automatic. So I hope, Eunice, you like that idea. Now,
I just like the idea of really doing a whole padded room with the trampoline in it, so that I can just bounce around, all over the place. I think a padded room during the pandemic would just be a good idea in general. And then trampoline walls and ceiling and floor would be kind of fun. Okay, what are we going to do this week?
Okay, so Spencer, would you like to do us the honor of picking a color? And we're going to ask Corey to reveal that for us. Or Katya, if you can.
Sure, I'll pick rose.
Rose. Let's see. Katya, can you reveal it for us? Marco couldn't help snacking throughout the day. Anything sweet. I guess it's probably not true, but Marco tell us. And drinks more soda than he wished to. That's the challenge. Okay.
All right, that's our challenge. She snacks all day.
Okay. So each of the guests pick a number for the two things to review.
Okay, I'll pick the number 11.
I pick 20.
Aha. Mirror and light. Okay, so we have to redesign mirror and light in order to solve Marco's problem. And let's review a futuristic state. Now, Marco, you can do the honor of picking one of these objects. And we're going to see what future
Carrot. Carrot.
Carrot. I see you like healthy things. Okay. So, Mickey, what is that? All IoT, can you...
all IoT means, everything is connected. There's no such thing as a disconnected mirror or a light. So it's just got connectivity. Maybe it can talk to other things. Maybe it could talk to the world. And because IoT means it also could have like robotic action or sensing, it can also detect things, and it can maybe, it can move. It's got a life of its own. And then the future is, married with 2 kids. This is a very traditional future in some parts of the world. So you do have the ability to enlist maybe other people in your family, and that's the future. So what do we have to do now?
Well, now we're gonna invite everyone to do the snack edition redesign and in this future, and the guests, you are invited to come to the round 1 in the mirror to start. We're gonna do 3 minutes countdown.
So where's round 1?
It's on
Can
the
you
board.
zoom over to there?
Just right next to it, you see Mickey, Marco, Spencer.
Perfect.
Okay. I'm gonna give you 3.
How much time do we have?
I'm just gonna start timer. 3 minutes, go.
3 minutes. Oh man. Can you zoom in on this so we can watch everybody else? I want to steal ideas.
So are we putting all our ideas here?
Yes.
Well, you're trying to either come up with an idea for the light or the mirror or a combination of the both to solve this challenge.
And let's give our audience the challenge.
Okay, but I need some help here.
Can you type in your...
Okay.
Now, if you're watching this online, you could also type in the comments in YouTube or whatever. You can actually type in your idea for this. Think about the problem you're trying to solve, and you're going to solve it using IoT, the family, and a mirror or a light or both of them.
$52 seconds left.
Wow.
Let's see what the...
9 seconds. I don't think Marco, you looks like you had a problem filling something out.
It's very slow. I put it in the chat, but I'm copy pasting here. And okay, good, it worked.
Okay. No problem. So who do we want to go first? I'll go last.
And
why don't we have,
if you can move your mouse off the sticker, you can review it more. Great.
Oh, okay.
Mickey, you can go first.
All right, I'll go first. So mine, I called it, I have to go find it again. I called it Monster, or Mirror, Monster Mash. The mirror shows you yourself, but heavier and heavier and heavier into the future at the current rate that you eat the sweets. But also, it randomly shows you what happens if you just don't eat that sweet or that snack. It's got a sensor so it can detect when it's hearing the sound of a snack bar being opened. And it weirdly follows you around the house, and it'll pop up at the oddest times and either show you one or the other. So it's kind of a obnoxious mirror.
It's a punitive, very punitive mirror. Okay, Marco.
Yeah. The crisis, I call it snackcident. Because it's a snack accident.
Okay, the snack accident.
So the thing that came to my mind, it's simple, and it's every time you have a snack accident, you turn on a light that is in front of a mirror. And this basically makes you have a visual clue of what you're doing and not just doing it.
All right, the snackcident.
Wow, making
what about Spencer?
Amplifying putting your behavior in the spotlight for yourself. Okay.
Yeah. So mine, I worked on the light, and I called it the light of your conscience. And the idea is that the house monitors you with AI, and you, in advance, you set a number of sweet snacks you want to eat each day. And if you ever go over that number, the lights in the whole house will flash, alerting your whole family that you've gone over your limit. And then every time you eat another snack, it will go off again.
This is, you know what? This is like leveraging on social pressure in a very high tech way. That's great. That's wonderful. So we're actually gonna do a second round of these ideas. But let's, Mickey, can you share some of the audience inputs? Let's see what they have.
Well, I see Eunice had a good idea in here. It's a little bit like the one I mentioned. She says there's a spy cam and a mirror right by your workstation. And whenever it detects that you're eating something, it shows you a sick, unattractive looking Marco to remind them not to eat it. That sounds a little bit familiar. And then it could beep a really loud alarm, so the whole household knows that you're illegally snacking based on what you're doing. Meta has come in with another idea. It looks to me like the LED in the light bulb will be green at the beginning of the day, indicating a healthy start of the day. And as we eat unhealthy snacks, it'll start changing colors to red or yellow or orange to signal that it's not so good. Like you're going to want to try to move it back towards that healthy color. And the color can go the opposite way if you eat a healthy snack. If you start to ignore the signals, it goes one color. So it's sort of like just giving us ambient cues. Nice job, Meta. All right. Want to do round 2?
Yeah, that sounds great. Cool. So round 2, we're going to try to wear the lens of science. And Einstein has this quote that if he has an hour to solve any problem, he's going to spend 55 minutes diagnosing and then 5 minutes coming up with a solution. So how would a scientific diagnosis of a behavioral failure look like? Here's the overly parsimonious framework where we separate the lacking intention and intention behavior gap. We basically say there's these stages of change, and a lot of times we attribute people's behavioral failure to lacking intention, not knowing better, lack of motivation. But in fact, there's such a thing called the intention behavior gap. Everybody want to eat healthily, want to exercise more, but they don't always manage to do that. So here are 4 potential barriers and diagnosis where you can actually pick one of them. So I guess you can pick one of them, and then you can brainstorm on if we have to solve that particular barrier. So let's say I'm good. There's such a thing as the ostrich effect. I have a mental model that if I work on things and I'm bad at it, just hurt my self-image. I don't want to look at it. I have an ostrich effect. That could be one that actually blocks the intention to change.
Mirror might be an example because you want to kind of bury your head in the sand like an ostrich. Okay. And that's
Absolutely.
a mental model. Okay.
That's a mental model. The other is, social norm or social proof. If all people around you are, when I see my husband snack a chocolate, I definitely want to follow. And the more tired I am, the more I'm receptive to that social influence. Sometimes there's also lack of norm. If you're like trying to eat super healthy, people are like, well, you're not being cool enough. You're too worried about being.
I heard that.
Yeah. Or intention behavior gap. Sometimes it's just, especially when you're stressed, you're feeling stressed, you're more likely to have this breaking point where you are, snacking on healthy food to cope. Also not part of your routine to eat healthy snack, or you have now a new routine of unhealthy snacking. It's when you open the fridge, it's right there. You are mindlessly eating unhealthy snack. So one of these barriers, pick one that you feel most related to, that you can that resonates the most to you, and we're gonna go for the second round. But before we go there, I also want to talk about a particular bias, which is called confirmation bias. It's the idea that people analyze and search for information in ways that support their current ideas. And sometimes it can block them from searching for new ideas, how to go about things, such as I probably have tried and it didn't work anyway. I know that, Spencer, you have done a lot of thinking on how to overcome biases. Do you have an example of how confirmation bias actually shows up for a lot of people in daily life?
Sure, yeah. So one example of confirmation bias that I think about in daily life has to do with the way we use Google. So imagine that you had a disagreement with a friend, and let's say you make a claim to a friend like, oh yeah, well, the Bermuda Triangle has lots of ships that mysteriously sink there. And your friend says, no, that's not true, that's BS. So you go to Google and you search something like, why do so many ships sink in the Bermuda Triangle, right? And if you do that, you're more likely to get websites that actually already agree with the premise that there are lots of ships sinking there. Whereas if instead you were to go and Google, is it really true that the Bermuda Triangle has lots of ships sink there? You might get a different set of websites that are more skeptical. So when we go to use Google to try to answer a question, it's actually really important, if we want to know what's true, that we frame our search either neutrally or in such a way that we're likely to get a skeptical view if a skeptical view exists.
So it's almost like we're embedding the answer to the search in our question. And so we kind of get what we ask for in some ways. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Because for almost any debated question, there'll be at least one website that claims either side of it, right? So you don't want to just find the one obscure website that agrees with your opinion, at least not if you care about figuring out the truth.
Yeah. And
so
if
in this next round, we have to try to think about this, the challenge, which is Marco is snacking an awful lot. He's in a family with some kids, and there's a mirror or a light that we can work on. But this time we're going to try to diagnose it and think about what those symptoms mean. Like, why is he snacking this? And try to choose and go ahead and rewrite a new idea based on the scientific thesis. So, I'm going to go over and try to pick one of those sort of ideas that you have, mental model, et cetera. I'm going to copy it over to my little posted area under scientific thesis, and then I'm going to try to write a new one. And how much time do we have?
3 minutes. I'm starting the timer right now.
3 minutes. I'm going to take a nap too, because this is so easy. One minute, 36 seconds. And if you have ideas out in the audience, go ahead and type them into the comments section, and we'll see if the audience comes up with better ideas or has a different scientific hypothesis.
Okay, meanwhile, I just want to give people a glimpse of what Katya is doing, live drawing here. Now, back to our guest ideas. Okay, Mickey, can I still start with you?
Oh, all right. Mine one is called Parallel Worlds. And the mirror shows infinite worlds. So like when you look in the mirror, you also
What's
see.
the thesis? Your
my
thesis is
thesis is social norms. So I want to create social norms, and I was thinking, well, Marco could be infinite Marcos, and the peer pressure of all the Marcos and all the other families in these infinite parallel universes would be able to kind of help shape his behavior. So when he looks in the mirror, he actually sees branching possible Marcos into the future, and all of them are doing slightly different snack choices, and the sensors, of course, detect when he's actually about to grab a snack. And he gets to see what happens with all the Marcos that actually choose a good snack and actually where the snack is. He can actually watch them go into the room, grab a snack, and he sees them dancing with the whole family. So he ends up basically feeling the sort of normative peer pressure of all the other Marcos just seeming to have a much better time than he is.
Wow. So that's like really strong social proof, as well as some normative pressure, because everybody in the family wants him to be healthy, and sometimes being unhealthy can have negative externalities. So way to go,
And I was
Nikki.
trying to just be positive though, like the family's just having a good time with it, and he gets to see some sort of reward that happens when he does this.
Wonderful. Marco.
Yeah, I thought if there is this urge to have a snack with sugars and have some sweet stuff, then there is this mirror next to the snack that has like a screen or maybe just a paper under it with healthy alternatives that you can have as much as you want instead of the sugary stuff with the soda, etc. And then also the thing of the lights, maybe you have two kids, we said, then if you actually fail, the light goes off in the room of the kids. And then they need to turn it on again. So you actually think about somebody else.
Some social pressure, some social influence there too. Because we are very much social animals. So we really do a lot for others than for ourselves.
And it maybe makes us feel well to do something for somebody else. So that's kind of got a nice positive reward for not necessarily rewarding yourself, but for somebody else. Spencer, what was your scientific sort of hypothesis, or what is your approach?
From light of consciousness to light of discipline.
My hypothesis is that he lacks self-control. And so I introduced the light of discipline. And the way the light of discipline works is that he sets in advance each week how many sweet snacks he wants to eat per day. So that's his like pre-commitment, that not to go over that number. And if he goes within that number, that's fine. But if he goes over it, then the light of discipline detects it and blasts him in the eyes with the bright light. It's of course safe. It's not going to blind him or anything. And then for each additional snack he eats that day above his level, it gets even more intense, so that there's no way he can possibly forget that he's violating his pre-commitment.
I think you can call it a light stick. A carrot and stick, but the stick is just a light.
There you go.
Light stick.
Now, if he could get a sunburn or a suntan from that, then maybe he would start feeling good about himself. Although that seems like an episode of Law and Order to me. I like
he pre-committed to it. He agreed to it. So,
I love it that everybody can come up with such creative and refreshing new normals. So we would love to also hear, as a last takeaway, what kind of societal norm that if you can get rid of, like in Islam, what would that be?
So Spencer or Marco, what would be a societal norm you'd love to get rid of? Just something everyone does that you'd love to change.
Well, personally, for me, I would love to change the norm of being forced to talk about really boring things when you're first getting to know someone. I would enjoy it more if it was more socially acceptable to say, hey, here's something I've been thinking about lately. But I think most people would find that kind of jarring.
Spencer, in fact, there is a 1990s paper showing no small talk can help people bond much more effectively than small talk. One of their first studies, 2 participants got married after 1.5-hour conversation, and they decided to cut down the length of that study for the follow-up studies. So great norm to get rid of. Absolutely.
Marco, what about you?
Well, for me, it would be when the waiter comes and say, place the food and you start eating, how is the food? Is everything all right? And everybody says, yeah, it's great, even if you hate it.
So you want more blunt?
Sorry?
Yes. Blunt honesty?
Yes. Yes. And also being able to say no, or to say, yeah, to not please people just because you have to please people. Yeah.
That's great. In fact, in our next episode, we're going to talk about how we can systematically get rid of norms and what kind of norms deserve to be abolished. What kind of new norms can we set? What would be the science behind the criteria deciding social norm, new norms, and abandoning old norms? So we're so thrilled to have had you, Spencer and Marco. That was super fun. We're running out of time, and
thanks, guys.
We'll come back to you also with the audience winning ideas, and hopefully you'll help us judge which idea should be the winning one. And our talented Katya, graphic designer, is going to do another drawing. And so thank you so much again.
Thanks so much.
Yeah,
thanks, guys.
thank you.
Thank you. Bye, Mark.
Before we end, I wanted to share something I thought was pretty interesting that I just read about, that League of Legends is a really big game. Like millions of people play this game. It's like a video game. And sometimes there's a norm that arises, like on certain teams, where it's sort of trash talking, but the trash talking shifts into trolling or shifts into insulting people. And they wanted to see if they could actually fix this norm. And one approach was, let's just ban people. Like if they trash talk or they troll too much, they're kicked out of League of Legends. But then they experimented, and they actually found that if just putting you into restricted chat, like basically restricting a little bit and maybe trying to encourage you to think a little bit about what you were about to say before you said it, they were able to see a pretty significant reduction in trolling. And so and it was a temporary period of time. It wasn't like you were restricted forever. It was just like, hey, you're going into the timeout box because you're not necessarily doing things. So I do think it's really interesting to see what even new platforms we could use to experiment and play with norms that we want. And you mentioned something about how we might understand if a norm is going to really be negative for society. Can you end us on that? Just explain this idea of how we would evaluate.
So there's such a thing as social dilemma. If what is weird that you do does not have negative externality on others, even if you're not conforming, it is totally okay. But if it has negative externality, like mask in the past, wearing mask, you should be totally free not to wear it, right? But now if you don't wear it, it's not just your own safety, it's other people's safety. Now all of a sudden there needs to be a new norm. Smoking, before we found out that there was secondhand smoking impact, it wasn't a norm. But the moment when it has negative externality, it makes sense to use normative pressure to get rid of free riding effect, of cheating effect, right? But there's a lot of unnecessary norms that's still here today that are already outdated. And we're going to talk a bit more about that in our next episode. And so thank you very much, everyone. We believe that sciences can be fun and it's for everyone.
And those things are not just things. They could maybe help us. They could become our allies. Thanks, Ting.
See you next time. Bye.